It gives me great pleasure this morning to introduce to us all our keynote speaker for this commencement exercise. His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, SC, President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. On February 15, 2013, the Electoral College of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago elected Mr. Justice Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, SC, as the 5th President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. In 2002, he was conferred the status of Senior Counsel. In 2004, he was appointed a Judge of the Supreme Court of Trinidad and Tobago, and subsequently a Judge of the International Criminal Court. Anthony Carmona is the eldest of 6 children to parents Dennis, Stephen, and Barbara Carmona. He was born on March 7, 1953 in Faizabad, Trinidad and Tobago. He attended the Santa Flora Government Primary School and went on to Presentation College, San Fernando, where he received his secondary school education. I met the then Thomas Carmona when we both became students together at Presentation College. And as classmates, the President, Minister Fazal Karib, and I, along with several others, spent at least 5 very productive yet fun-filled years at that college. At that time, he was affectionately known as TC. Mr. Karim reminded me not to say what TC stood for. The President was well known for his love of the classics, history, and philosophy, and always had a bent for the religious as an active member of the Legion of Mary. It was not surprising, therefore, for recognizing the values that still remain with him and for the profession that he chose. In 1977, Mr. Carmona obtained a Bachelor of Arts Honors degree in English and Political Science at Mona and a Bachelor of Laws Honors at Cave Hill, Barbados, both from the University of the West Indies. In 1983, Mr. Carmona was called to the Bar of Trinidad and Tobago. In 1989, he became a senior state attorney. 1994 to 1999, he was the first assistant, then deputy director of public prosecutions, and acted as director of public prosecutions. From 2001 to 2004, he was an appeals counsel at the office of the prosecutor at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, and in The Hague at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda in Arusha. In this capacity, he successfully prosecuted appeals of persons convicted of crimes within the jurisdiction of the tribunals: generals, camp commanders, soldiers, and politicians. In addition to his distinguished legal profession, President Carmona has a wealth of experience as an educator both in Trinidad and Tobago and in Jamaica, where he was a teacher at the primary and secondary school levels, at St. Hugh's High School and Merle Grove High School in Kingston, Jamaica, and later at the Palo Seca Government Secondary School and Faizabad Anglican Secondary School. At the tertiary level, he was a lecturer at San Fernando Technical Institute in Business Law and a national examiner in business law, a lecturer in the Department of Language and Linguistics, and a senior tutor in the Department of Government, University of the West Indies. On March 18, 2013, Mr. Justice Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, SC, took the oath as the 5th President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago at an inaugural ceremony at the Hazley Crawford Stadium in Port of Spain. His Excellency is married to First Lady Rima Carmona, and they have a son, Christian, and her daughter, Anura. Mr. President, it is indeed an honor to have you address the graduating class and the assembly here today at this time. Welcome.
Dr. Kern Tobias, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, University of the Southern Caribbean, and Ms. Linda Tobias. Dr. Clinton Valley, President of the University of the Southern Caribbean, and Ms. Martha Valley. The Honorable Justice Ralston Nelson and Ms. Gloria Nelson, Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Representatives from the Nigerian High Commission. Members from the University Board of Trustees, University Vice President and Directors, representatives from other tertiary institutions, faculty, staff, alumni, graduates, members of the media, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Graduates, you will and you must continue to fight the good fight. You must continue to run that course with the required diligence and with a deep sense of humanity. And always, you must keep the faith. My sincere congratulations, graduating class of 2014, on achieving this important milestone in your lives. I have no doubt that the support of your teachers, your parents, and family members has in no small measure contributed to your success. Despite many less than positive distractions abounding, you have stayed the course, and you are now reaping the fruit of your labor. Today should not be seen as an end in itself, but as a beginning. Armed with letters after your name, you graduates have the added responsibility of further developing not only yourself, but the wider society. As I alluded to earlier, you have in your grasp the fruit of your labor, and what you do with that fruit will decide not only your future, but potentially that of your family, your community, your nation, and the world at large. I don't know how many of you realize that only yesterday you were referred to as the leaders of tomorrow. Well, today is that tomorrow. As today's leaders, you carry the hopes of many. You must therefore ask yourself the question, what type of leader do I want to be? First and foremost, the threat posed by knowledge without character is very real. For example, more often than not, persons responsible for white-collar crimes are those with letters after their names, just like you are today. We may want to blame the man on the street, the man in the ghetto, the man in the hill, the cutlass man. But the corruption which hobbles our efforts to make positive change has its genesis in those who have acquired academic knowledge and who have gone on to become educated monsters. Therefore, if it starts with people like us, it must end with people like us. I recall in the Gospel according to Mark chapter 8 verses 36, which states, unreservedly, for what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? The seduction of power is real, and if you fall prey to it, the price you pay will be a heavy one. Invariably, we gain new knowledge and skills, but sometimes the lack of a transfer of learning does not allow us to capitalize on our scholastic success. More often than not, this is as a result of a lack of critical thinking and critical analysis. The situation occurs when we treat our educational qualifications as the prize. In the heady days leading up to and immediately after our nation was granted independence, critical thinking was abundant and a fertile medium in which our freedom took root and which fostered the growth and development of this nation. Through critical thinking and critical analysis, you will develop a greater sense of social responsibility, strong and transferable intellectual and practical skills. Demonstrate you must the ability to apply your knowledge and skills in real-world settings. To do this, you must be able to extract and distill key information from the data that will bombard you at every turn. Thinking outside the box, as hackneyed as it has become, means that you are able to remove the self-imposed blinders which limit your ability to see beyond your comfort zone. It will free you from the herd mentality, so you no longer go with the flow. It allows you to become an agent of positive change. A natural corollary to critical thinking is that important trait of wisdom. The one example of a wise leader who practiced critical thinking and who continues to stand out is Solomon. The ability to combine and sift through seemingly unrelated details to create an overarching image of the truth is something that Solomon was famous for. Take nothing at face value. Perception must not become reality, as obtains in this land of ours. Use the comprehensive body of knowledge at your disposal to look at all the issues objectively before you come to a determination of your version of the truth. More often than not, you will find that with a discerning mind, all things will reveal themselves sooner rather than later. Despite this admonition, we all go off track, sometimes more than others. The runner stumbles. At times like this, we may have to beat a path where there is none in order to return to our original course. Your class motto, to go where there is no path and to leave a trail, is not meant to be a nice soundbite. Recall the incontrovertible message of Moses, who blazed the trail in which he had to confront all that he had held there in order to free a people he had only just come to know. In this regard, you must develop a passion for helping others to reach their full potential, to find their promised land. As a former teacher, I felt the joy and magic of seeing students surpass me. It is the same joy that your very own teachers, lecturers, and professors must anticipate now. The simple realization is that the human race is not about who finishes first, but how many people run with you along the course. In this regard, there is no room for us to be judgmental of others. There is no place for bias. With your present qualification, it is tempting to consider yourself to be a cut above those who have not yet or who may never attain this goal. It is easy for us to see the differences between us when what we should be looking for are the similarities. It is through this that we engage the business of humanity, in which we are all equal partners. For far too long, we have created segments in our society, even when we claim we are trying to help. We class people as homeless, differently abled, and by their disadvantages and advantages. We continue the doctrine of separation when we host a dinner for those without homes and place hundreds who share the same hell under one roof of hell. We must engage a different kind of philosophy. The blind man must engage the man who cannot see. We must invite the homeless with a man who doesn't have a home. We must in fact have dinner with those who cannot hear when we can. We conveniently place the differently abled in homes together because we claim they need professional help, which they cannot get from the wider society. We practice affirmative action for women and people of differing races, ensuring that we maintain the prescribed quotas. These are often the solution foisted upon us by people with letters after their names. As our social evolution continues, things will change. As leaders, you have to ensure that they change for the better. You must set conditions for the rights of all people to be enshrined within the policies that we develop as a nation and society. Everyone is not the same, and it is our individual differences which make each of us unique and thus precious. One contribution to the solution may well lie in our mutual appreciation and respect for each other. Why do we therefore have to legislate our sense of humanity when we all know we need to be fair, just, and equitable in the conduct of our affairs? With your qualifications and a prudent work ethic, you will be attractive prospects for hiring. With graying workforces, developed nations are searching for young, bright professionals to recruit in order to maintain their development. But what of the developing nations which need these very same resources? The brain drain is a scourge on the developing world. I will therefore urge you to consider entrepreneurial options when you leverage your skills and abilities to create sustainable ventures which can aid in the retention of our young leaders. The late luminary and patriot, Dr. Trevor Farrell, lamented that in Trinidad and Tobago we are experiencing the phenomenon of a dwindling band of patriots. In addressing the concept of patriotism, he said, and I quote, "There was a time when the term referred simply to a person who loved, supported, and defended his or her country and its interests, not uncritically, but with devotion. It included the idea of service to our country in whatever sphere we find ourselves." End of quote. Philosophically, I therefore want to challenge you to shift your mindset from citizenship to patriotism. You have a moral and social responsibility to reinvest in your country just as your country has invested in you. Become a dynamo of positive change. Service and public service to one's country is, however, a difficult proposition. I know, because all my life I have quietly engaged in social initiatives throughout this country. And all my professional life I have engaged in public service. However, it is difficult. And what makes it difficult? Because public service, by one's involvement in public service, it has become a no-holds-barred situation. Since persons who come forward to engage in public service are often the victims of unfair, disparaging comments in the public domain, and especially in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. It is done with impunity. What has happened to plain old decency in our relations with each other? Parliamentary privilege has become a cocoon for statements of excess and acrimony. Criticisms are a must, but Machiavelli is dead. The ends must not justify the means. Your stewardship as leader must operate on the cusp of compassion and humility. And I warn you, in engaging in public service, you must stand firm, independent, and desist from the philosophy of the herd. Because all great things on this earth have been wrought by the power of one. And you are that power. At the moment, as I've indicated, and sometimes taken out of context, I am a firm believer in creating lines of succession. So in this regard, I engage those who have institutional memory, and they are sometimes old. I would engage those who are not so old, and I would sometimes engage those who are young. Because we are in fact traditionally been very poor at creating the effective lines of succession. And I can tell you, in my entire life, I have never belonged to any organization, any corporation, any NGO that engages in the recycling of empty plastic bottles. And it is this way that we must engage to build lines of succession so that we can create stronger institutions and by extension create a stronger, better, and more moral society. In speaking of positive change, I am minded to refer once more to the hallowed words of my former brother, Justice Malcolm Holdit, in addressing lawyers who were called to the bar last year. He urged them to not only take stock of the past, but also to assess the future that lay before them as they rely on the values of honesty, integrity, and ethics to guide their careers. He warned them of the inextricable link between their personal and professional lives and the danger they face in becoming ensnared by social media. Employers, and I warn you, and listen carefully to what Justice Malcolm Holdit had to say. Employers are now turning more and more to the internet to access prospective employees' social media pages to see if they meet the criteria for employment and fit within the dynamic and holistic working environment. Attention, therefore, needs to be placed on the character message you are sending to potential employers, employees, and the public at large via the photos and language you upload to the social media. Cyberbullying has assumed crisis proportions. It is now vogue to lash out at others from the shelter of digital anonymity. Easy targets, however, tend to have far-reaching consequences which are not immediately apparent. We live in a society where character assassination has become the norm, and you, graduates, must be in the vanguard of the movement to create a society that demands always mutual respect. Constructive criticism without denigration must become the standard for your interactions with each other. There is one unmistakable fact, and that is our world is changing at an unprecedented pace, and this constant disruption and its associated changes will bring you to your doors opportunities which were near impossible to access for your parents. To point out a common modern observation, you have been prepared for jobs which may currently not exist and will be called upon to make use of technology not yet invented. This will require you to continue learning, updating your skills and knowledge throughout your working careers. Thanks to the internet and the World Wide Web, you will have access to the sum whole of all human knowledge. And it is the nurturing and learning skills passed on to you by your parents, teachers, colleagues, and society as a whole, which will enable you to take advantage of those many opportunities which will come your way. Never look at a faced hurdle in life as an end to your dreams. See it as an opportunity to improve, to challenge yourself to do better, and most of all, enjoy the journey called life as you traverse it. I continue my admonition. I will reiterate it and emphasize it. Continue to fight that good fight. Continue to run that course with integrity, with character, with responsibility, and with accountability. And most of all, continue to keep the faith in this great nation of ours. Thank you.